Welcome into the DNVR Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Kreisman. With me, as always, Rudo and AJ from the DNVR Avs crew. On this episode, we're talking... No, I'm not going to do it. Should I? I thought it.
Don't do it.
I bailed at the last minute.
I'm too hungover for that.
A little bit of Mortal Kombat.
Oh, man. The ear-friendly version.
Yeah, people are wearing headphones. I get it. So, we're talking a little Mortal Kombat. Obviously, the new movie came out. We'll talk about our impressions, thoughts, feelings, some of the cool little Easter eggs that were going on inside of it, how it relates to our experiences with the other movies or not, and games and stuff. But I wanted to begin with a very basic, four category question for both of you. I feel, and feel free to outright reject this framing altogether. But bad movie, good video game movie, or good for a video game movie.
I'll go with category 5 and say trying to be something that it isn't. It wasn't bad. It was not bad, but I can't say that it was good. And
I could do it.
Yeah, I'm sure you will, and I hope you prove me wrong. But as much as anything is probably my expectations going into this movie, that left me wanting something else out of it.
What was the expectation?
More beat the shit out of people and just have a super fun movie where it's fighting every second of the movie.
I mean, it can't be, right?
I expect some, but I also expected someone to die in the first hour of the movie.
Somebody did.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Hanzo died at the start, but that was it.
Yeah,
it seems oddly specific. It has to be at the beginning of the movie. They did kill his whole family and him and everything. But then after that,
I mean, his entire village.
A 2,000-year time jump there. All right, so.
I mean,
well, and then
I'm not going to say fair yet.
Well, and then they ripped Jax's arms off and
but he was fine. He was fine, and that was cool. But even that was it. The first 30 minutes of this movie could have been condensed into about 5, is what I'm saying.
So, real question here, because I had to watch it twice because the first time I watched it, I fell asleep.
So you loved it?
Well, I fell asleep when they got to Raiden's temple.
Okay,
and was just conked out. And then I woke back up when they got into the void. So,
okay,
that part of the movie clearly interested me. So when I went back and I watched it this afternoon, the whole thing, I actually stayed awake for it. I thought I liked kind of and I always like this aspect of movies. I like the whole how everybody comes together aspect of it, because it was you have to round all these people up. Okay, what brings them together? Why are they here? They don't just all know to show up at the same time in the same spot just inherently and be the prophecy was foretold that I would be here on this day. There was none of that. You have to get the band together, and I always like that part of movies. And I thought that in this movie, I thought that whole element was not very good.
Exactly.
It wasn't as interesting, considering that this was supposed to be sort of origin story-ish. It wasn't very interesting to watch how they all came to be together.
Honestly, to me, it just felt like they didn't use their time very well. Because the opening scene where you establish that Sub-Zero is the bad guy and the lineage of Scorpion takes 11 or 12 minutes. And I when it was happening, I'm looking at how long the runtime of this movie is. And I'm you guys still have an entire movie to show me. Like, this is not, you're not leaving yourself enough time to flesh out the details I'm going to want.
So I think the intro is one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, that whole opening sequence. But I also agree with the, like, you know, and we're talking about like all the plot stuff, and I try not to get too bogged down once it becomes clear that like plot was clearly not the first priority of the people. You're like, okay,
this is a fighting game, and it's a fighting game movie. Like, the script is the vehicle to get you to the fights.
That's why I wanted them to lead in more to the fights. Exactly.
Right. That said, while I didn't buy like the whole tattoo premise, which is totally made up for the movie, which is not in any of the games.
Yeah.
It's just like totally unnecessary and really inconsistent in the way that it seemed to work, or like it leaves open a lot of weird questions. Like, what if
they spent the whole
like accidentally
movie
backs over someone with a tattoo in her car? Now she's gonna have to go fight in Mortal Kombat.
Like Mortal Kombat itself was like, they kept talking about like, 9 straight.
Yeah, 9-0, baby.
And they're like, and they keep talking about like, we don't get like, all we get are references to those 9. There's no like fallen champions. There's no like history of how it is. It's like, we start at the end of the line.
Yeah.
And they're like,
which is how the first Mortal Kombat game begins. But you're right, they don't give you any of that lore. They just
there's nothing, dude. Yeah. Like, they start at the very end. Yeah. Like, you're running a 100-meter race. They started at the 95th meter.
Yep.
And you're like, what? And their whole thing, like the bad guys' whole thing is like, we're here, like we get, you know, permanent dominion here when we get 10 wins in a row. But their whole shtick is that they're like subverting the tournament.
Like, it's been thousands of years, and you're 9-0, and your bro couldn't wait 2 weeks to take over Earth.
Like the guy's like, we can't allow this to happen. We have to cheat at every turn to prevent the actual tournament from taking place. And it's like, you've won 9 in a row.
Right.
What are you doing? Yeah. Like, this doesn't, like, that particular motivation, I actually, when I went back, when I watched it today, when I watched it this afternoon, I actually went back and read through the entire plot, trying to see if I had missed something, because I was like, what was the motive? Like, why are they so intent on cheating? Is it just to ensure the 10th win so that they don't have to like start over?
Like, the whole premise was like, we didn't win 9 in a row by not cheating, so let's cheat.
Well, and so like, but we don't know any of that because they didn't. Exactly. All they did was allude to 9 straight wins, not how the 9 straight wins happened.
Yeah.
Or like, all there was like vague references to they've won 9 in a row, and like they brought it up like 12 times.
Yeah. Which again,
like it was like a Super Trooper challenge, dude. Yeah. Like, they kept trying to see how many times they could bring it up because it was all the time.
Yeah. Because it's a reference to the original game, right? Which was like the point that they were trying to drop you into a world that had a history, and that was their way of doing it in the OG. But even then, like, they give you a better sense of the history, I think, that came before. And all you really got in this was, you know, for people who are paying really close attention to things, they're basically the scene where our main guy, Cole, whatever, meets Sonya Blade, and she takes him to the exposition room, and there's a bunch of stuff, you know, around. And there you can see, like, if you want, like, Kintaro and some of this stuff, that like there's some, if you're looking for it, but someone's trying to get you to do shots at home. Well, we're not at the bar. I don't.
Not after last night, dude. Yeah, gotta let my liver recover.
We're taking a couple day break from the bar.
We appreciate you thinking, but
we'll put a pin in that.
Yeah, save it for the next time we lose our minds.
We'll put a pin in that one. Dude, they tried to get me to do shots of Rakia on the Nuggets show last night after the Avs show, and I was like, fellas.
Boy. But anyway,
I didn't get home till like 2:30.
So I think we can all agree that even though it didn't necessarily need to, this is something I was kind of having this conversation with Katie. She was like, "Man, people should get over that stuff. It's just a video game movie, and who cares?" And I was like, I mean, it'd be nice. Like you can make those things better, and I'm still waiting for the day when all of the elements do come together. That's kind of why I did the framing up top, right? This wasn't a great movie in the sense of like you're gonna tell people who aren't into Mortal Kombat, like even if you're not into it, man, you got to watch this. This is some really good stuff. This is a movie for Mortal Kombat fans to go, hey, the characters are doing the things I like, and
I still though like. Why couldn't this movie have been 15 or 20 minutes longer to flesh out that story more properly? Because its runtime is like 85 minutes or something. It's super short.
I really wouldn't have minded them delving into Mortal Kombat itself.
Yeah.
Like why the tournament
because they like just say they establish like their establishing of it at the beginning of the movie is like this is super duper important. And then like we just accept that for the rest of the movie, and like I'm cool with that, but I would love to know more about it. How did it come to be?
Well,
what is it? Why does it exist? What is it for? I really would love to know some more about those 9 straight wins. What's up here? That's a long ass winning streak.
Yeah,
like what like can we get any kind of background?
And that lore all exists. Like they even introduced the Kung Lao character, right, which was a perfect opportunity for him to, because it's tied through his ancestry. In fact, the guy with the hat, the spinning hat, for those, I'm sure everyone here knows, but I'm just in case anyone's like confused on the names, his ancestor was the last person who won the 9th, or I guess we'd say the 10th time ago, right? The reason that the streak is only 9 and not 10. Who was the last person from Earthrealm? It was another Kung Lao. And so that's they could very easily have had him tell that story instead of, I don't know, fighting with Kano about egg rolls or whatever it was they were doing. But I wholeheartedly agree with this idea that even with some of the contrived things they came up with, like I can concede on the tattoo thing. And I agree that while it wasn't the best getting the band together story, I liked the band enough. I liked the interpretation of the characters. I just like seeing them. So I didn't mind the first third of the movie just because I like this interpretation of Jax. I like this interpretation of Sonya. I even liked the new character. There was a while where I was thinking you could have taken somebody from the universe if you wanted. You didn't have to make it a new character, but once you made him part of Scorpion's lineage, it couldn't have been, so it had to be a new character because you can't retcon that into somebody else's.
I thought I was taking crazy pills because I was like, who is this? And so like I did stop and like look at it. And I was like,
same.
Okay, I'm good.
Double check that he's not in.
Yeah, I was like, look, dude, I am not like the biggest fighting game fan, so I'm not like a Mortal Kombat diehard or anything. But I was like, I swear to God, I don't remember this dude.
you Google like Mortal Kombat characters, and you're scrolling through the thing on Google, and it's a bunch of like CGI animated characters, and then it's just Cole Young, and it's his human face, and you're like, okay,
all
right,
yeah.
Well, and then like so their whole thing, like unlocking your powers. I thought that was cool.
That I actually really dug as them coming up with an excuse that's never there in the original games about why these human characters can do magic and like fight with people from Earthrealm. Like they never explain why Johnny Cage can just shoot green shit out of his hands or something.
Yo, spoilers for the next movie. My God,
my bad. Play a Mortal Kombat game. But yeah, Sonya coming out with her. I actually really dug that explanation for how their powers manifest. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I thought it was cool because it was like, what's it going to look like when they do? Like what's going to happen here? And just like that whole process of like, how does this work? I was intrigued by it. I thought it was fun. And I thought its execution in the movie was one of its high points.
Sonya getting her power was the best scene in the movie. I will have no other arguments.
I say that it was the high point, but like Cole's power, I was like, I don't understand what's happening.
Pretty underwhelming cool power for the main character.
Cool shirt.
I was like, okay, so he went from like being on a beach to wearing like this gold top. What's happening? Is he like absorbing the energy? Is this armor? Yeah. Well, okay, like why is he like now he's like randomly growing weapons on his arms? Like what in the world is taking place here?
It was difficult to tell with that.
And I thought like that's supposed to be like one of your your big moments in the movie, because he's your central character. He's your most human character. He's the guy where it's like, oh, it's, you know, how do you discover your power? And it's like, oh, you've got a whatever, and it's a whole thing, right? You know, Kano discovers his by being a huge asshole about egg rolls. Whatever. Very on brand for the character they established.
Way cooler than a fireball.
And like,
he did steal the movie. Everyone has mentioned that, and Chris here in the comments.
Like,
but Kano was phenomenal.
Like the whole. I agree. The Sonya reveal. Rudo loves the Sonya power reveal. It was awesome. Yeah. It was super, like, it was a big deal throughout the entire thing. But then it was like his happens, and it happens like it's like a drawn out process of it happening, and you're still not even entirely sure what the hell is taking place.
Yeah, I didn't like the main character as much as you guys. I don't think like it felt.
I didn't like Cole at all. I thought he was a huge waste of my time.
Yeah, it felt like they dropped in like a make your own me character as the main character of this movie, and it was just a total like self insert. Be the superhero type of guy, and I just didn't do it for me.
It didn't like, and so then he's fighting with Sub-Zero later on.
Yeah,
and like, oh, he gets the blood on the blade, and that's what summons Scorpion
from out of hell. It's been 2,000 years, and they haven't thought to like give anyone in his lineage this blade.
And it was just like
cover it in blood. I mean that's you know.
The thickest armor in cinematic history is always plot armor, and
telling you,
clearly much thicker armor than whatever gold shirt he grew on his body halfway through the movie.
I mean, you tell me how Hellspawn demons are brought back into Earth Realm. What exactly are the specific rules? I don't know. I mean, I again like.
But it sure was fortunate that was the rule in that exact moment.
Sure was. Funny how that works out.
In the chat, like I think we all loosely agree with you that was the assumption that his like armor absorbed energy, but then the way they revealed it was like his daughter / his girlfriend's daughter. I don't know if they ever established if it was his kid or not. Like he's fighting the monster and his daughter goes, use the uppercut, and it's like, oh shit, here it comes, gonna knock his head off, and then he just like kind of hits him. And
and I'm also like, why is she coaching you mid-fight?
That's what she does, man.
Why are you needing every bit of you need so much outside help that your daughter is telling you how to fight mid-fight? Well, and I'm supposed to believe that you're like this super important descendant, and like you're supposed to be a central figure in this universe.
And he sucks through the entire movie. He's
like, his whole thing.
He needs Sonya to save him.
And he's not good anymore. I mean, the whole thing was about him overcoming all of that and finding himself there.
What in the world, dude?
And he was said like he was gonna get his ass kicked by Sub-Zero if he didn't spawn an actual demon. So.
Was kind of cheat hole-ish, wasn't it? He spawns a demon from hell just in the nick of time, who happens to be like his like blood rival, going back thousands of years. Yeah, it was. I struggled with that part of it, man. But I will say that the revealing of the powers, the whole Raiden's Temple thing was just like a playground for Kano to be Mortal Kombat Deadpool. For him to like crack wise and just like constantly not take anything seriously. Everybody, Kano stole the movie. He was super. For me, I'm just like, is this just what we're gonna have in all of our nerd movies moving forward? Do we have to have a Deadpool character in all of them? One of them that's like sarcastic and kind of chirpy and just sort of takes like the peanut gallery role in the movie instead of it just being that guy in the audience? Like, is that where we are?
Kano's
because
always been that character. There's no
like,
other way to take Kano.
I liked him. I thought I had a good time. He was funny. He was entertaining. I liked all the different ways that he could insult the dude's hat. I thought it was hilarious. Calling it a sombrero and shit. Like, I thought it was. I was enjoying like him being the vehicle for the writer, trying to come up with as many synonyms for that hat as they could. But it was, I don't know. I'm just like, is this where we are now? Are we always going to have this sarcastic character? Because part of its appeal is,
I mean, it's
like fun and new, and now we're gonna have one in every movie. Like, this was executed well. Kano was awesome. He was a lot of fun, and he was a total scumbag and easy to hate. And his heel turn was very predictable.
Yeah,
and blah 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 blah. I liked it, but I liked him. But I'm worried that we're just now going to see this all the time.
I think the problem that it runs into is when you have that character that's always talking, you just get no development out of anyone else in the movie.
Everybody's reacting to him all the time.
Like, Jax had 30 seconds of airtime after he had his arms chopped off. And was just like, I can't do it. And then the next scene he's in, he's like, I can do it.
Maybe the best line of the whole movie. After he punches that dude, yeah, he drops that fatality, and he's just like, "What did these motherfuckers work?" And you're just like, "Oh my god, it's a great moment."
I loved everything about Jax. I loved everything about Jax and Sonya Blade, especially. Those are my two, by far, my favorite, even including the games recently that have done those characters pretty well. Those are my two favorite interpretations of those characters I've ever seen. As somebody who is pretty into the series for a long time, I thought they did really well with those two.
I loved
And I'm with the comments that want the Miz as the next Johnny Cage. I'm so in for the Miz as the next Johnny
we'll get there.
Cage.
Yeah,
but
I want the Miz, so it'll be John Cena. But
it's way too big. Way too big.
I couldn't shake where I knew Sonya Blade from.
I don't know that I've seen her.
It was super bothering me. The only reason it was bothering me is because she was in that movie Chips, and I had just watched Chips like 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
And so it was like her face was like right there in the back of my brain, and I'm like, oh my god, this is really bothering me.
Yeah,
but I really like. She was one of the better characters in the movie.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and so this is another thing that I think there's another subset group. So I think this is a movie that was very specifically made for Mortal Kombat fans, but then I also think it was a movie that was very specifically made for Mortal Kombat fans who liked but were very disappointed by the first Mortal Kombat movie in the 90s, which was very specifically me, which was this like, so the second Mortal Kombat movie from the 90s, Annihilation, is hot trash and no one should ever watch it. It's unwatchable. It's nonsense.
There are student films that people release on YouTube as like their final project in film school that are significantly better than Annihilation was.
Yeah. Now, the original one, I think it has some terrible moments. It's got some really bad dialogue, some very campy acting, some bad CGI. It's got some incredible, actually kind of state-of-the-art fighting sequences, like really, really good martial arts choreography. And it was one of the only video game movies of its time, really, like for a decade on either side, that got close to a faithful interpretation of some of the characters. Like not all of them, but they got pretty close. The big knock on it, of course, was what was the one thing Mortal Kombat was known for, especially in the 90s?
Blood.
Like, gore. The violence. It went to Congress for this shit.
Yeah.
To have two PG-13 movies was kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what Disney's doing with Moon Knight, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into that again.
Remains to be seen, but
yeah, I guess I can't knock it because it hasn't happened yet, but that is a very predictable colossal failure coming.
And so this movie, for that particular thing, like, was a huge win with me in all the categories. So like Rudo came in and said he wanted people to die in the first half. Like, all right, fair enough. That's what Rudo wanted. He didn't get
ignoring that a bunch of people did.
Like I think they showed one like random person.
I think more action before the final third, where suddenly now everyone's dying, and I think that's a fair critique. But for me, I had a checklist as well, and it was like, I want to see the gore and the fatalities and the brutality that wasn't in those first couple of movies. They did it. I want to see faithful interpretations of the characters, including Liu Kang not wearing cargo pants the entire time and being like a Japanese American. I was like, no, actual Asian dude walking through the sunset on his intro, boom. That's my Liu Kang, throwing fireballs out of his hands. They got rid of all the magic stuff in the original. This is my Liu Kang. Like I said, this is my Sonya Blade. This is my Jax. I
think their interpretation of a lot of the characters was pretty good.
Yeah,
I really didn't have a strong problem.
Agreed.
Yeah. And so like that stuff, like, the fighting was pretty damn good.
As a casual-ish Mortal Kombat fan, for me to easily pick out, like, oh, got that. This is what I remember about these characters. Got that. Like, great. You've checked my very like vague boxes here.
Right.
So I thought they did a good job with that. And dude, I totally agree with you. The fighting.
Dude, I love that they picked their spots for like the nonsense. Like, there's one scene where Liu Kang does his flying tiger kick or whatever it's called, but they didn't overdo it and just have everyone flying around like maniacs either. Like, the actual fighting side of it was believable enough, outside of when they started doing magic shit. But
sure, but I mean, like, that's an accepted premise. Like, that's an accepted part of the universe, especially when they're like, oh, you've got the mark and you have to unlock your power. Like, there's a process that goes on here, in order for you to achieve these things. And these are people who have gone through it. And so I thought that part of it was really like the suspension of disbelief when the silly magic shit starts. Like, it's very easy because they walk you through how it happens.
And that's what I'm saying is they unlocked their power and then they had their power. It wasn't like, oh, also this guy can fly now because fuck it.
Right. We just decided that totally, right? And so those are the big things for me. So for me, like, I was hopeful that maybe they would string together some better writing and acting and plot and stuff. Though I didn't think, again, compared to the original, the acting was like, send these guys awards compared to the original, like in most video game movies, honestly.
It really didn't have nearly the kind of campy feel that I was expecting. It did not feel as like,
especially with how much stuff straight out of the video games they just stuck in there from, fatality. They got him turning around with Reptile's heart. Kano wins, just straight up like doing the post-game taunts, finish him and fatality and all of it. It's just a flawless victory. They got them all in there, and you're like,
the only one I had a problem with was flawless victory, because I was like, there's no way that dude would have said that in that situation.
Yeah, right.
Like, he was that was like the most grounded character, the one who was like everybody's big brother, and then all of a sudden he's like stunned like that, where you're like, oh, what? No,
right?
Yeah,
no.
The legs.
Michael, I laughed.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
So hard. Like,
that was a great little reference right there, where they toss that in, and you're like, ooh, I appreciate that.
That is quality stuff. No, I totally agree on that. And though I did go back and watch the fight to make sure, and Kung Lao was correct. Katara did not land a hit on him, so it was a flawless victory, which was kind of weird because they built her up, and in the games she's a bigger deal. That was the other thing. I want to get to Chris's question, but I actually think that's
it's a great question.
That's a really good question. Agreed.
So we'll have a longer conversation about that. So again, my nitpicks were not like I was fine with the first half and getting the band together. Did I love it? No, but I like the characters, so I was going along for the ride. Some of the plot things didn't bump on it at all. Cole's powers seemed fine enough to me. But when they got to the end and I wanted to see all the fatalities, and they did, I was like, okay, fine. Katara, I was like, whoa, okay, that shocked me, but good. I wanted to be a little bit shocked maybe by some character deaths. Fine. But then they killed Goro.
They didn't even, yeah.
Like, what the? So those are the kinds of problems I have. Like you can plot holes all day with me or whatever, but I'm like, there was not enough Goro. There was not enough explanation about who and what Goro was. If you're going to use him, just get Goro out of the movie. Look, I love Goro and I wanted to see Goro. Everyone wanted to see Goro. But if you're just going to have him lose to Cole Young.
He was not even as like a real bad guy, as the like power up bad guy that you just use to get stronger. Like,
yeah, it was like henchman level bad guy.
1-800 bad guys.
And then
where Goro came from.
Yeah, and then and they straight up like he dies to a character who magically grows a golden shirt halfway through the fight, and then grows weapons off of his arms halfway through. It was just like, sorry, you could tell that I really hated that scene.
And he still needed his girl to like hack him with an axe first, so he didn't die.
I'm always in favor.
I did really laugh though, because she's like the wife, girlfriend, I think his wife, yeah. Like she's like, get in the truck, and they try and like run Goro over, and I was like,
I don't remember that move from the games. Remember when you hop in your truck and you tried to run him over?
That was the GTA mod.
Yeah.
I just tried to like imagine myself in that situation with a 4-armed monster that was 12 feet tall and being like, yeah, I'm gonna get in my F-150 here and try and plow this guy over. No.
Yeah, right.
No, that's not.
They did have Shang Tsung had a line about how like death is just another gateway. So if they just want to bring people back, they can. Which fine, it's not like it's the first time. Combat. I mean,
Scorpion chilled in hell for 2,000 years until his blood hit a certain piece of metal,
right? Like clearly,
and then was summoned from hell,
right? That said, I will on the flip side of that give them props for killing Kung Lao. Like as all the the bad guys are getting wasted, and you're like, oh, okay.
There had to be a sacrifice somewhere.
One of them had to go.
Mortal Kombat. You can't make a Mortal Kombat movie and then just have a bunch of people get to the end of the movie.
Yeah,
that's what they did that's what they did in the 90s.
So yeah, bro.
Rat bastards.
I feel like we established that those movies were terrible.
No, but anyway, the fighting sequences in that first movie are really good, and it gave us the song. Don't ever forget that movie gave us the song, which is now played way too much everywhere. Okay, let's get.
I did like the rendition in this movie, though.
I did too. I marked out for it every single time.
It was not. It wasn't overwhelming, but it was a good nod, and it was like good. You had to have this in here somewhere.
Yep.
It felt good.
This one's a little deeper in. We got 2 Chris questions. This one's a little more inside baseball, so I'll start with this one. With Taslim, I believe that's the actor who plays Sub-Zero, being signed for 4 movies. Do you think he reprises the role as Sub-Zero? There it is. Or do we see him? The emergence of Noob Saibot. That's again, you got to get really into the Mortal Kombat lore if you want, but they're again for people that know it, they appear to be setting up for all of that. Yeah.
Let me just say that being signed on for 4 Mortal Kombat movies is just ambitious.
Yeah, that's aggressive for sure.
To start with, I think this first one has gone well. It's been received well. It came out and in a manner that will benefit it, because it's very easy for me to just be like, I have HBO Max, I'll fire this up, versus like I'm gonna take 2 hours out of my one day off this week, and I'm gonna go to the theater, and it's gonna be the sole focus, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it really helps that it was released while movie theaters are trying this whole thing out.
Right.
Yep.
But for a 4-picture deal is very
aggressive.
Ambitious.
That's aggressive.
I do think that they've laid some nice foundations here to blow this thing out. That was the other thing. impressed with how many characters they used, but then again, as we talked about, they didn't develop very many of them.
Yeah.
But there's still part of me was like, hey, they could have had a bunch of faceless henchmen for these, and they picked actual Mortal Kombat characters, and that was kind of nice.
Instead, they treated Goro that way.
So it's the wrong one. You could have done that with so many other random ass characters they have in this.
You could have just made up some extra baddies.
Totally.
Kept that chamber in the kept that bullet in the chamber for future movies, but instead they were like,
right,
we have to waste Goro as fast as possible.
They'll bring him back. They'll find an excuse.
Anyway, I'll stop being salty about that. Everything about that scene just really didn't sit well.
I didn't know that he was signed on for 4 movies, but the vibe that I got during that movie 100% was like, oh, they're totally gonna do a Sub-Zero origin story somewhere down the line. Like,
yeah, I think they'll get into that.
Well,
whole
especially
lore. And I think everyone recognized the Sub-Zero Scorpion stuff was the best part, right? So it's like, just give us more of that.
I mean, it's like they were smart to build their trailer around Sub-Zero versus Scorpion for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's the iconic Mortal Kombat rivalry. It would be like making a Street Fighter movie and building it all around Ken and Ryu. Like, you just have to.
Well, like, I don't think it was a mistake that they slipped the line of For the Lin Kuei in there twice.
Right.
Like,
right. The whole thing. So,
well, and like, you could look at this as a really long, kind of windy path origin movie for Scorpion. So the next one sets up, and we have a long, windy path
on Sub-Zero
origin where they actually go through Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, some of the 9-0.
And so this is why I think this is such a great question. Our guy Chris coming in. Better question to ask now is this: are we feeling a sequel movie should be done, or should HBO throw Game of Thrones money at them and do a TV series? Pretty much,
please, TV series.
Anytime anymore that I get this question, it's got to be a TV series.
Yeah, dude, it has to be a TV series, and the setup is obvious. They showed you how this would work.
Yep.
In the movie.
Yep.
In this movie,
right.
Because they paired everybody off and said, all right, you go fight that guy, you got to fight that guy, you go fight that guy. Boom, you do that. That's your weekly episode. It's those matchups
of this person,
those
head-to-head,
heads. You have them lost. You have Lost style flashback episodes where you go back into their origins. You show them how they got here, who they are. You show all the characters' backgrounds, and then at the end of it, you have the head-to-head. And then you have the winner. You move on. The next week, the same thing. You get 3 or 4 weeks into it, and then you bring them all back together. You kind of do what they did in the DC television universe,
right,
where they had crossover episodes with all the different shows all the time. They did like one every year where they kind of lived in each other's universes semi-regularly. You do the same kind of thing, and then you end up with you finish it, your season finale or whatever is a full-blown 90-minute feature film. Like, boom, go all the way in with it. That's exactly how they should do it.
I desperately want people's stories on Outworld. There were 45 seconds of Outworld in this movie, and I was like, that place looks so damn cool. Take me there.
Right. And that's another reason why, again, I'm with AJ. The whole story begins with Shang Tsung collecting the souls of the people that died. You have to bring them back, because actually the most disappointing death, as much as they did Goro dirty, I felt like they did Melina some justice right up until the moment she was dead. She was the one person, actually, as people were dying and they came to, so while you were big on like the Sonya reveal moment, I was with you. I was like, yes, no, because there's so much more with Melina and Katana and their backstories and everything that she goes through. So if you can bring all these characters back, like seeing Melina's history on Outworld and how she came to work for Shao Kahn and eventually Shang Tsung and her conflict with her sister Katana, like there are great versions. There's animated versions, there's fan-made versions of that story. Like it's almost as good as Scorpion Sub-Zero, the Katana Melina stuff. Some people would say even better and more in depth. And so, you could get into that on a TV show so extraordinarily well. And both of those characters are from Outworld. So you could like live in that space for a while.
It'd be so sick. And to your point, I do think this movie does feel a little bit like they're trying to set the hook, and then down the line with whether they decide to do movies or a TV show or whatever, they can be like, yeah, don't take movie 1 too seriously, but this is the universe that we're living in now, and we'll bring back whoever we want.
Oh, dude, they're gonna retcon the shit out of this.
Oh yeah.
Like you can already see, especially if they have a 4-picture deal. If they have 4 movies in mind, we're getting retcons left and right.
Yeah,
Yep.
You got,
which will be fine. It'll just be like, welcome to the video game / comic book world.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, but
consequences are temporary.
But yeah, and Chris, they did show Shinnok's amulet, and so that's one of the things they Kano grabbed it, never brought it back, so that's a resurrection thing. So they've got their built-in excuses to do it. They've got multiple built-in excuses to do it, so it will almost certainly happen. But
I'm good with it, man. The one thing I don't want them to do is to splinter off into full origin story movies. Like we don't need a Jax movie, and don't need a Sonya Blade movie. Like
that's why the shows would be great. Like a 40-minute episode where you've got, like, if they've resurrected Kano, right? And so now Sonya's wherever she is. She's like, what? This dude's back. So now you've got a 40-minute episode that's built around Sonya and Kano, one of the best rivalries in Mortal Kombat. And it's 20 minutes of each of them, or 10, 15 minutes of each of them, and then 10 minutes of their fight or whatever. Right? But then the next episode, you move on. You're not stuck with them. You go to somebody else.
I did love their, like, you have $2 million. Like, why are you staying in this shithole? that whole conversation.
That was great.
I don't know why. It hit my funny bone pretty hard. Yeah. I thought that was real fun.
Ruda, you sound like you're gonna hop in there.
Just echoing what you guys said. I don't need a backstory of 2 people that I was like, yep, they were in the military. Cool.
Yeah. No, we get it. Yeah, more time in the other realms and all that stuff, and getting into the fantastical elements.
Do we think that this opens up the door for more fighting game movies?
Dude, I hope.
Or are we just not there?
I'm still waiting for the Tekken movie.
This is what I'm saying. Like, if say Mortal Kombat, let's just project in the future. This ends up with 3 movies. They go relatively well. Like, trilogies have a really specious, like, very spotty history here.
Yeah.
But let's just say it goes relatively well. Like, it gets fondly remembered. People really dig it. Whatever. Does it open up the possibility that somebody says, why don't we make a real, not Jean-Claude Van Damme Street Fighter movie?
Right.
Absolutely, like, why don't, because I'm telling you, there is and I've mentioned this like 5 times on this podcast, but there was a Street Fighter, there was a Ken and Ryu backstory Street Fighter live action movie on YouTube that you can go and watch on YouTube right now, and it's solid.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, you just throw some resources into it. Street Fighter being the one that I think is the obvious, because it's the name recognition that would get people who are like, oh, I used to play that in college with my friends. We used to sit there and play Street Fighter or whatever.
Right. It's also got, I think, one of the more... Actually, no, Tekken's got a pretty solid lore to it as well.
Yeah, Tekken has a lot. Soul Calibur might be harder to do, but
Soul Calibur's lore is pretty ridiculous. But I love Soul Calibur. But it's definitely like it's got the most out there
little Super Smash Brothers,
right?
Imagine if Nintendo actually backed
Sasha. You know how fast I would go see a Mega Man movie.
I know, right?
Like totally. But yeah, I love this from Racist Fan Rock saying Tekken will have New Japan wrestlers, because I actually just cast that entire movie in my head. I was like, yep, Kenny Omega is Jin, and then you gotta get the whole family of people. You got Chris Jericho can play Paul Phoenix, and but I'm a big Soul Calibur guy. Like there's a bunch, like they made that Detective Pikachu movie good. They can make a Super Smash Bros. Movie
Straight
somehow
up.
great.
Yeah, Detective Pikachu was legit.
Detective Pikachu isn't that far away from Pokken Tournament, to be honest. Like,
right? Yeah, what other good ones are out there? Yeah. I mean, Street Fighter and Tekken
Go way
definitely
back.
can and should be made into quality flicks.
Get into the King of Fighters.
oh, geez.
Yeah. What's the
some Dead or Alive?
That movie's.
I was gonna say they did that. Oh boy. And there's a bunch of anime ones or whatever.
Yeah, there's like 4 DBZ ones already.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah,
yeah,
those are more good. Battletoads movie would be.
Kings.
We're getting into brawlers at this point.
yeah,
like
you're expanding a bit.
Now we're making Streets of Rage and stuff.
I had no idea that King's motion capture was done by Minoru Suzuki. That is absolutely fantastic.
I didn't know that either.
That is a Battletoads movie. I love
it. Get a Marvel versus Capcom movie.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, at this point, right? So now all you've got to do, okay, so we've laid the Marvel Cinematic Universe exists, so we're good there. Right? We already laid out how easy it would be to do the Street Fighter thing. And we did, I mean, Mega Man's got a whole ton of
that's an
that
easy slam dunk. Yep.
Like you do a Mega Man movie, right, with the same tenacity and spirit and flavor and color that you did Detective Pikachu, you've got a hit on your hands.
You think so? You think you could be that silly?
Totally.
That light? You think a Mega Man movie would be that lighthearted?
Oh, I guess it has to get a little heavier at some point.
I don't know. I feel like a Mega Man movie would be way grittier. Like it would be a lot darker.
Are you gonna do like a Mega Man X movie, like set it in the future with the like, everything is okay.
Well, and I just think the way that those games are.
Yeah,
I have a hard time believing that you would make like a silly, lighthearted Mega Man movie.
I mean,
where it's like quippy and fun, and you're kind of like laughing along, and you're like, this doesn't really. I don't know. I guess I just
Rockman.
I just don't see it.
I watched a Mega Man cartoon when I was a kid. Maybe that's where that's coming from. maybe you would have to go a little bit darker in tone. Actually, A-Wolf brings up a great point. They actually could very easily do the Mortal Kombat versus DC thing. That's actually a much easier stretch. That's just right there now. And those games are awesome.
Dude, Injustice is awesome. They could just make it. They could just make a DC fighting game at this point.
Yeah. Well, Zack Snyder was trying, but everyone got mad at him, so he doesn't get to do that anymore.
Well, he makes bad movies, so
no, stop it. You're wrong, and you're wrong. Stop.
I haven't seen the Zack Snyder cut.
That's right. Stop it.
I don't have 6 days of free time to devote to it, so
I know, right? Beautiful Joe.
Oh man.
What do you guys been up to gaming wise? I mean, I know we're all really busy, so it's kind of spotty.
Yeah, I barely have time for WoW, let alone anything else.
I've been playing a little bit. I just this week because the Rockies were out of town, so I had a little bit more extra time on my hands. Got into the show, which is just is what it is normally. And we've been playing a little Streets of Rage, which is cool.
Oh, 4?
Yeah.
I finally actually worked my way through it. It's hard.
It is hard. And Katie is gonna try Okami. Okami HD is on sale. Do you remember Okami?
I do.
With the wolf and was that originally a Wii? No, what system was that?
No, I think it was Wii.
It was a Wii game. Yeah. But she was like, I get to play as the wolf. I was like, yeah. She's like, in. And it's really pretty and gorgeous. And I hadn't played it since whenever that came out, when I was in high school, maybe. So
2006.
Oh, so my first year of college. So yeah, Okami. We're gonna give Okami a. I've seen people in our Discord have been talking about Returnal.
I've heard a lot of good things about it too.
The particle effects and graphics and visuals look amazing. Sasha's in Rocket League. Yakuza. I started Persona 5, and the first 3, I should say Katie started Persona 5, and the first 3 hours of it were tutorial, and we just could, there's no we weren't playing a game. We were watching an anime that was pretty entertaining, but we weren't really playing a video game. And she wanted to get in on that. I think I'm going to try Yakuza Like a Dragon. I've heard it's got like a old school style, like turn-based RPG, like a Final Fantasy style turn-based RPG fighting system.
You should play Bravely Default.
I've heard Bravely Default is good.
I played through all 5 hours of the demo and was like, this game's hard. I don't have the time to devote to this right now, but during the off season, I am going. It is, yeah.
Yeah, as soon as
because the original,
ends, I'm getting a Switch and playing Fire Emblem and Bravely Default.
Oh yeah, that's right. I haven't been able to touch it yet, but my wife just got Pokemon Snap. So
so Z and I agreed we were going to get Pokemon. Why hasn't
this whole show been about Pokemon Snap?
We're going to get Pokemon Snap, but we're waiting until obviously we can be in the same room so we can play it together. Which will be her playing it and then me yelling at her to take pictures of shit. But I'm excited for that. That's that they made a new one. Like I'm really excited, dude. That's gonna be awesome. She plays
it back there, and I'm like, I can't look over there until hockey season's over.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
precisely the reason I will be allowed to have a Switch once.
Yes. Dude, I don't. What do you mean? What do you mean allowed to have a? There's so many good games on that system.
I know. It's just It's hard to justify the purchase when I've got so many things on my PS5 now that I still haven't. Like I just downloaded Horizon Zero Dawn. Still have not played that. I just got it because it's free now. So I'm gonna maybe try to get into that.
I've been wanting to play Octopath Traveler for 2 years,
and I just is another one that every time I see it, it's $50, and I'm like,
so this is why you have to PC game, bro.
Yeah, for real.
It's on sale for $20 all the time.
To be fair, it goes both ways. I spent a couple of nights recently just staring at MLB 21. Like, is it 2022 yet? Can I get this on my PC yet?
I was so frustrated when they were like, "It's coming to Game Pass." But we're not porting it to PC. I was like, you mother.
I gotta play.
So angry.
As a hardcore Final Fantasy person, Octopath is recommended to me once a week, and
I'm working my way through Dragon Quest XI again. I restarted it because I had stopped and was like, "Where am I? What's going on here?"
The classic problem.
Yeah, where you're like, I was like 7 hours into it, and then was just like, okay, so
I remember nothing.
I'm not so far into it that I can't do this over again, but I'm too far into it. Like, so I just started over, and it's been scratching the itch that I've needed. Although I literally, as we were starting this podcast, I downloaded XCOM 2 again. So I'm just like, just trying to get to Mass Effect, baby. XCOM 2. Legendary Edition comes out on the 14th. Avs regular season ends on the 13th. My goal is to beat Mass Effect 1 between the end of regular season and start of round one.
AJ shows up to game one of round one with bags under his eyes.
Dude, when I show up looking like I'm strung out and I haven't slept in 3 days and everybody's like, bro, you kind of smell. What's going on here? I'm just going to be like, Mass Effect, deal with it.
I was going to ask because I wanted to try this exact thing, the Project Triangle demo. There's basically inspired by the Final Fantasy Tactics. Is one of my favorite games of all time. And it's spiritual.
A lot of people hated
it. I know, but it's because they didn't know what it was going to be. It's all my favorite quote of all time: Shakespeare. Expectation is the root of all heartache. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't what people wanted or knew. But yeah, the Project Triangle thing looks super cool to me. It's basically I don't know if you can still download that demo on your Switch or if it was like a timed thing or whatever. But again, I do not have a Switch, so I have not been able to play it. I did watch. I have a couple of streamers that I occasionally watch. Actually, probably now when it's not MLB The Show, when I've got like a free hour, I'll watch somebody on Twitch play games anymore. I've got more time for that. And then that's how I knew more about Bravely Default Octopath. I watched some people playing those. And
Bravely Default demo is good, man.
Bravely Default's fun.
It lets you. So what I really like is, I played the original Bravely Default on the 3DS like 1,000 years ago, and this is the second one. and it's in the same universe, but it's not the same characters, so you don't need the backstory. And what I really liked, what I do really like about it as a demo is that it lets you play the game. It doesn't spend there's almost no tutorial time. You just drop into it. You get 5 hours to play it. You get to go. You get to go explore some nearby dungeons. You get a real feel for what the whole concept of the game is going to be. What I really liked about it, dude, is that it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah,
like it is
old school.
It's punishing, but it's punishing because it forces you to learn what makes Bravely Default different. Is its combat system where you can decide, you can use the default, and then you can bank. You basically play defense and bank charges for doing multiple turns at once. And let me tell you, that shit on a healer, I had a whole party that was almost dead, and then I was starting to bank turns, and I banked 3 of them, and I rezzed the entire party, used the special, healed everybody back up to full life, and then just tore apart this boss and was like, so that's the potential of the game.
I feel amazing. Yeah.
This is figured this one out, and as somebody who played the first game, I was like, oh, this is what I wanted. But that game punishes you if you try and straight up just play it like a regular turn-based game. You have to learn how to use its little combat system quirk with banking the turns. Because if you don't, it's just too hard. You'll just get stomped. And that is one thing about the JRPG world that I think has been missing for a really long time, is a game that just kicks your ass.
The challenge
requires heavy strategy instead of just hit the button.
Well, a lot of times it's you figure it out. You figure out the general premise of how this is what's strong against this, and then you kind of fall into that rhythm.
Yep.
And then the real challenge is you versus the grind. Can you find enough random battles to level up, and can you devote the time?
Right.
It's not so much a difficult game as it's not so much a difficult genre as it is a time-consuming one. And what I really liked about Bravely Default 2 was that it challenged me in a way that JRPGs normally don't.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if anybody in here likes the Tales series. It's very hit or miss.
I was going to say, those are on sale right now on the PlayStation Store right now. The 2 I was looking into were Zestria and Berseria, I think, because they're both.
Did you ever play Symphonia?
Yeah. And I enjoyed that.
Okay, because for me, the big difference between Symphonia and a lot of the others is that Symphonia's story was great. And I did not.
Berseria's story is great, but the Zestria's is
Zesteria's was boring. I didn't get into it at all. I did not dig deep enough into Berseria. I played 4 hours of Berseria, and then a life thing came up and pulled me out of it, and I just never revisited it. But they announced or showed or whatever.
Right, yeah,
there's a new Tales game coming out in September.
Yeah,
and it
looks dope. It looks so dope.
I watched the trailer and immediately went add to wish list and was like, follow the development of that game. We are keeping an eye on you, sir.
Yeah.
It looked incredible.
Yeah.
I'm excited for a Tales game for the first time in 10 years.
Yeah. There you go. Rudo, anything you're excited about before we sign off? What's caught your eye lately?
I mean, Pokemon Snap, obviously, and I'm just waiting to be able to play that game. But
he's I'm just waiting for you guys to shut up.
So dude, it sucks so much that we have to
wait for the
the NHL season is so crazy this year that because normal NHL year you can kind of work your way through it. But the regular season has had a postseason schedule.
Yeah.
And then the postseason is going to happen. And we're expecting it to be a multi-round run. Where I tell you, on a lot of levels, I'll be really disappointed if the Avs lose in round 1. On a personal level, my life could really use this.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the worst thing.
I'll use my normal cop out 9.1 for WoW. The raid looks amazing. I cannot wait, but that's not till like
Bro,
July.
I can't. The fact that Rudo and I are doing that together is something that I'm just like,
Yeah.
we're that raid looks so dope that we might spend more time hanging out in the off season than we have during the season.
Fantastic.
9.1 has me totally amped, dude. There are plenty of things about it that I'm like, ugh. But the raid alone.
So
Right. So, yeah, Michael, I'll set up my Venmo for everyone so you all can buy me a Switch. So that way, no, I've got the funds at this point. The problem is not that I can't afford to buy a Switch; it's that I don't have time to play one until the baseball season ends. But once it does, yeah, I'm gonna get that. I get
How's that possible? Every time I watch a baseball game, I'm doing 2 other things at the same time, and I'm like, this is the greatest sport in the world. I can play so many games while watching the Rockies lose. It's just like,
I do think,
especially the first 6 innings.
Yeah.
Like the first 6 innings, you watch them, you enjoy them, you digest them, and then after that, you get into YOLO mode. You can just play games, and whatever happens, happens.
See, I say I don't have enough time to play games while baseball games are happening, but Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade comes out in like
you're gonna find the time. Yeah.
They got extras, like upgraded it to PS5. They got extra chapters, Yuffie's in there. I'm like, oh wow, suddenly I found the time in that schedule. Weird how that happened.
Who started today? Marquez. All right, 7 strikeouts, 1 earned run in the first 6 innings. All right, my story's written. We're good. It's fine.
Not this year.
You find the time, dude. Right? Somebody throw a strike, walking everybody.
Yeah, what's up when I'm the starts that I'm most excited about are Austin Comper.
Hey, I enjoy Austin Comper. I actually
outside of the 2 bombs, he's been really fun to watch.
Yeah. The team is not boring. They're not good, but they're not boring.
I will tell you, dude, they are not the Baltimore Orioles of the last few years.
Dude, I've seen a lot of terrible baseball in my time. If there's one thing I'm an expert on, it's terrible baseball.
Can I just say the noises that I made on that Justin Lawrence striking out the side were not manly.
It's funny because I did the exact opposite. I did the old Tim Allen from the 90s. The old
Yeah, the Avs went on the road for a week. They need bodies. I don't think the new hook call up is anything other than them saying if we get an injury, we'll see him. I don't think he'll play unless they have
emergency podcast when he gets called up to the main roster.
Which we won't. I mean, we won't know until because Bednar has refused now to give out the lineup the rest of the year.
I love that this conversation has taken such a direction that it makes total sense that our comments have gone from Yuffie extra chapters, Vice, the hype is real, to making mobile games canon, to AEW this Wednesday, War Games, the hype is real, to what's the deal with Alex Newhook and the call up to Square Enix's business practices. You guys are the best community in the world, and it is what it is.
Gerard will be good by the start of the postseason. Book that.
Really?
Game 1, Sammy G. He'll be in the lineup.
You understand I need that, right? You understand what that does for my
we all do, bro.
It's like I need Sam Gerard in my life.
Dude, life is just better when Sammy G plays for your hockey team.
Straight up. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Went a lot of fun and weird and interesting directions there at the end, too. But that was great. Man, I got to get a Switch. Fire Emblem is actually the one that is made me buy it several times.
I have had to resist the temptation to restart Fire Emblem for the fifth time.
You don't have those 300 hours this year, bud.
But when the system gets a killer app for your fiance, when she's sitting there watching the girlfriend reviews of Pokemon Snap going, can we get this? I'm going, we got to get a Switch. She's like, how much do they cost? I was like,
how long have we been talking about the Switch Pro for like 4 years now?
Yeah, is that even going to be a thing?
Every time Nintendo's like holding a Treehouse event, everybody's like Switch Pro, Switch Pro, Switch Pro, and it's not it.
All right. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Make sure you're I don't know what. Subscribing to the DNVR.com, listening to the DNVR Avs podcast, the Rockies podcast. May as well listen to the Nuggets and Broncos podcast as well while you're at it. Just hang out with us, man. We do have the deal going on still. I'm pretty sure that when you sign up for the DNVR annual subscription, we hook you up with a free shirt and a free holistic stick from our friends at Holistic Wellness. But we appreciate each and every one of you for being awesome. We promise that we're just going to be ourselves. We really appreciate you listening to the DNVR Gaming podcast, despite the fact that it comes whenever we find the time to do it. You guys have hung in there with us, and we do appreciate you. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.